Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Good evening.
You're listening to Straight Talk with Dean and Mark. We thank you for tuning in and hope you enjoy another exciting episode of our show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Straight Talk with Dean and Mark. It's 89 and fine up here in the great state of New Jersey. But as always, from NJ to NC, I'm in the studio with my right-hand man, Mark Lee. So, Mark, tell me what's good in your neck of the woods, my brother.
Well, you know, like you just said, it's warm over here, too. I just checked the temperature, and they said it was something like 91, 92 degrees. And as far as I'm concerned, that you might as well call that, you know, anytime you get over 90, you might as well say 100, because once you get over 90, you're pushing near that. And that's, I think they said 88 with a feels like of 92. I just went out there because I had to go out and get a bite to eat and some things of that nature. And it felt more like 96 to 100 to me. So it felt a little warm. And I was just going for a short walk, a couple of blocks around the corner, and just coming back and forth. I was like, good grief, it's warm. Because, you know, on another show that I do, that IBM TV show, where I had a yoga lady and a lady that does good cooking and things of that nature, you know, healthy cooking and all of that. And the yoga lady gave a demonstration. We talked about how important it is to have good health and everything. But I told them I was going for a walk. But after I went out there, the walk was to the store and back, because I think I'm going to have to save that other walk, the exercise walk, either for later on this evening or tomorrow, because it was not feeling like walking weather to me at this particular time. So I think I might have to wait till it gets a little bit cooler, or try to arrange it so these walks happen a little bit on a different time, because it was definitely a little bit on the toasty side out there. But, you know, things are going well over here. We still got folks doing things in terms of trying to stay healthy with the fact that we're in the middle of that pandemic and all of that kind of stuff. And, of course, we're still having Black Lives Matter protests throughout the country and throughout the world, because every time you turn around, something else is going on and there's some other actions that are taking place. So, you know, we're still keeping very busy with that. And, of course, as you know, everybody is definitely, you know, I think a lot of folks are waiting for that second stimulus check, because, you know, funds are tight these days for a lot of people. You know, some people are collecting unemployment. Some people are collecting little side gigs, doing whatever they can do. But funds are definitely tight. And I know I've had a couple of conversations with friends of mine that are like, you know, they heard rumors that there might be a second stimulus check, and they're like, I need it now. Because, you know, despite what some people say about, you know, we're on the rebound and the economy is wonderful and all of that kind of stuff, a lot of my friends are like, they don't know who they're talking to, because they're not talking to the folks in my circle, because a lot of folks that I know are still struggling in a lot of different ways. So they're seeing those struggles going on and things of that nature. So, like I said, I don't know who they're talking to, that they're thinking that these things are not happening. But what I'm seeing is a lot of folks struggling, and a lot of folks having great deals of struggle in those things. But, you know, even in struggle, folks find a way to have some excitement. So my pop sent me an article. It was actually an article about Evelyn Ponder, who is my brother's girlfriend's daughter, and just about how she got a surprise graduation present that she really enjoyed, you know, because folks are trying to find a way to even have excitement for these folks that are not having the traditional celebrations and traditional graduations. So in her case, they actually did a group of slingshot drivers, because my brother is a member of a slingshot club. So they actually went out there and did a way to honor her that way. And a good family friend, Adam Sopsey, wrote about it in a looks like a magazine or something online called Adapt. And it looks like it's connected to the Hiker Company. You can check it out at adapt.hikercompany.com. But they were just talking about how in a lot of different places, people were doing unusual things to help graduates. Like apparently in New Hampshire, a ski resort donated its lift to a local high school for a literally uplifting flyover ceremony. And in Nashville, Tennessee, a ride-along event made a graduate named Dontrell Spencer famous for his astonishing flood of emotion, some of it surely elicited by the current collective mood mood, I should say, under quarantine. And then that's where the article talks about what Evelyn went to, because, you know, she was even saying she wasn't all that excited about graduating from high school. She was just a big fan of them mailing out diplomas and trying again for a ceremony when she graduated from college. And definitely that sounded like some sage advice that she was giving to herself. But my brother wasn't having that. My brother was not going to have that. He wasn't going to let the circumstance pass without pomp. And he is a member of a group called the Capital City Slingers, an area chapter of slingshot car owners. The group is only about a year old, but it's quickly taken hold locally, and its steadily increasing membership has risen dramatically during the pandemic. So, you know, they're always trying to do some good things for the community. So they've rode in holiday parades, lend their presence to charitable and humanitarian causes such as breast cancer and multiple sclerosis awareness events, and they maintain an enthusiasm for and commitment to doing more than just getting together for weekend highway rides. So, you know, they check in with each other on a regular basis and see what folks are doing. And so, like I said, he realized she was going to graduate. So more than a dozen slingshotters rumble in full regalia came down her cul-de-sac, sounding horns and music aplenty. And, you know, I'm sure the neighborhood was just totally shocked by that. And matter of fact, Evelyn said if it was really special, if they had handed my diploma, I would have said, this is it. I graduated. We're done. But apparently they weren't done because some of the other members also had kids that were graduating, and they had people that were in the community, like in retirement homes and things of that nature. So they went around the community and did some other things as well. So, you know, folks are finding ways to do things like that. I know that this past weekend, a group of folks actually did a contactless Juneteenth parade. You know, Juneteenth, which is the celebration of freedom from slavery and things of that nature. They did a contactless parade. So they had a bunch of folks, I think I was told somewhere around 65, 70, 80 cars that were involved going down certain neighborhoods around Durham, and they did pass out some goodies to some people that came off their porch that dealt with, you know, things. I think there was some voter registration information in there. There was definitely some goodies to get people through these kind of times. I'm not even sure all of the nature of what they gave out, but they did give away some things, and that went on this past Saturday as a celebration of Juneteenth. So we do know that even though folks were not able to do the more traditional way of Juneteenth, there were some organizations that were out there, and there were ways that folks were getting their celebration in of this very important holiday. You know, a holiday that was almost hijacked because certain people tried to do an event in Tulsa, you know, where there was a major riot way back when that killed a lot of people and was very sad in the way that it was handled and everything. And that was going to be the day that a major Republican event was going to happen until, you know, his 3 or 4, because I'm not convinced he has more than 3 or 4, but his 3 or 4 brother friends and sister friends told him that he might not want to do it on that day because that was the day of Juneteenth. So, you know, he did back off. He did it another day. I understand that he did not have the turnout that he was expecting. I also understand that some of his people came down with the COVID and everything. So, you know, it doesn't sound like it was quite the thing that he was expecting it to be. I'm not all that sure that some of the people that were involved in it didn't get another memo because, you know, while they avoided one holiday, they didn't avoid another holiday because I'm sure that some of our friends, and, you know, I know that you know some people in this community that I'm going to mention. I've got some friends and acquaintances in this community that I'm going to mention as well. But, you know, he avoided Juneteenth, so instead he does it on the day of the riots that happened there in New York City that a lot of people say were the whole thing that started off the LGBT movement. So he did it, and, you know, there was a very popular, I believe it was a hotel or something there, and they had these riots sometime back. I want to say it was called Stonewall or something like that, the riots that they had almost back in 1969, and a lot of people put that as the beginning of the LGBT movement that has gone on for a number of years. So, you know, he avoids one holiday, but he has it on the same time or near the same time. So maybe it wasn't on the exact same day because I'm actually looking it up. But I do know that that holiday is covered up, so it looks like it was actually on this coming week that it was going on. But still, no, it doesn't matter. He's doing it near a time of another major event that set off things in our community. But it says that the Stonewall riots, also referred to as the Stonewall Uprisings or the Stonewall Rebellion, were a series of spontaneous violent demonstrations by members of the LGBT community in response to a police raid that began in the early morning hours of June 28, 1969 at the Stonewall Inn in the Greenwich Village neighborhood of Manhattan, New York City. Patrons of the Stonewall, other village clubs that cater to that crowd, and neighborhood street people fought back when the police became violent. The riots were widely considered to constitute one of the most important events leading to the gay liberation movement and the modern fight for LGBT rights in the United States. So, he's having events like right near major events for a lot of folks that are involved in a lot of struggles in our community that are still going on. So I just think the man needs to do a better job of research when he tries to do these events, like whether it was this coming week, which is what this one appears to have been on, or whether it was the same week as Juneteenth. It just seems to me that just doing this time just is wrong in a lot of ways. And I do know that this would have been the weekend in New York of the Pride March. So definitely whether that Stonewall had happened this week or not, this would have been the week that the Pride March would have gone on. I understand that it was a virtual parade instead, and I think they had it on Sunday. But definitely, it seems to me that, you're doing things on weeks of Pride, week of Juneteenth, week of a lot of things that are being commemorated by people that are not your biggest fans. So I'm wondering if you didn't do those kind of things intentionally. So I'm wondering if he might not have done these things totally intentionally and without consideration for what a lot of other folks are thinking about or going through. So, and I know that in the world of sports, we might be actually getting, because I know you're more of the football kind of guy, but we might get football. We're still waiting to see. But it looks like basketball may be taking place. I understand that there might be some training going on. It's all going to be down there in Florida, it looks like. But it looks like there might be some training going on this week, and they might even get some games in July. I'm a fan of the TBT tournament, and that's going to go on in one location as well. That's kind of like that kind of leagues that are a combination of current college players and folks that had their heyday, and some of them might have even played in the pro. There have been all kinds of these pro-am kind of tournaments that take place in the summer. TBT became a big favorite because it had this unusual ending where you had to win by a certain amount of points, and you had to do these other kind of things and these new rules that they instituted that some people think may actually eventually come into the NBA. Some of these unusual rules that they came up with that made the game a little bit gave it a different twist. I'll put it that way. Gave it a different twist. So It's going to be interesting to see whether, but I understand that will take place not this weekend, but the following weekend. And like I said, I understand that the NBA might be going on. NASCAR had a race, a big race, I believe, this weekend. So it does seem like some sports are trying to take on. I believe baseball might be trying to come back into the get some semblance of going on and everything. So it does look like there are some attempts to try to get things going and back going on a regular basis. So it's going to be real interesting to see how this all plays out and whether folks actually get these things happening or whether it's just going to be eventually folks calling off the season and there being no season. But we're going to see how this all plays out and whether we actually get a season or whether some of these sports actually do not happen. But it does look like a lot of the powers that be are trying to get these things to go on. And, of course, people are still taking down statues for a variety of reasons. I understand they took some down in Raleigh. They took some down in some other parts of the country. And so folks are definitely having that go on. I understand that they took down some statues dealing with one of the people with our newspaper here, the Raleigh News and Observer, because apparently Frank Daniels, one of the people involved with that paper, was also known to have some racist viewpoints and things of that nature. So I know North Carolina State, I think, may have changed the building name because of some of the things that were going on. And I know they definitely took down a statue in honor of him. So I know that definitely folks are starting to think about buildings that might need changes, name changes, or, of course, people thinking about even taking down statues. I think if we take the statues down, because some people might want that history. I personally do not need to have a Confederate soldier staring me in the face in a major metropolitan city or anywhere in the world. So I don't need that. But, maybe we'll just put them in a museum. That's because then it's your choice whether you go to that museum or whatever. But that's your choice. But I don't need it in my public space. That's just my opinion.
You know what? I don't even know if we want to put them in a. Do we really want to put them in a museum? I say just be done with it. I know in Richmond, Virginia, not too far from my hometown, they took down the statue and put it in the lake. So it was like it's a done deal. You know what I mean? They were like, we're done with this. We're putting it in the lake. We dare you to say something about it. It's over. You know what I mean? So they got it down up here in Camden, New Jersey. They're looking to change the name of Woodrow Wilson High School because even though he was one of our past presidents, he was very racist. So, they're taking the tide is changing, man, and a lot of things are going to be different now. Some people are not going to be able to handle those changes, but it's going to be all right because the change is going to happen anyway. So maybe it's a good thing, you know?
Hopefully it's going to be a good thing. Hopefully things will happen. That we'll be finding out positive things and the way that things can change on a positive side because we got too many of these negative things that are happening, so we need to have some positivity in our lives. There's no doubt about that. That's part of what some of the people that I've talked to on some of our other shows have shared with us, that they're ready to see a positive change. And I don't know about you, but it seems to me that some of our younger people are taking lead, and they're taking lead in a very positive way. They're, while they might have liked what our generation did, or particularly mine that's in their late 50s, and some of my friends that are in their early 50s, and definitely have friends in their 40s. But some of these other kids that are coming up now that are teens and 20s and 30s, they just seem to have a whole other attitude, which is basically that we want to rewrite history and not in a negative sense, but like make history, acknowledge what happened in history, but kind of like put our stamp on it and make it a very positive kind of stamp. That's what I'm observing from a lot of our young leaders, that they don't mind talking about the history, they don't mind knowing about the history, but at the same time, they don't want to sugarcoat the history, because that is sometimes what has happened, whether it's been Christopher Columbus or whether, as you just mentioned, Woodrow Wilson or some of the other leaders that did have some dark side to what they were doing. They didn't want to necessarily sugarcoat that, so they are willing to, talk about the bumps, talk about the bad side, but at the same time, get some folks involved in making some positive change. So I know that happens every generation. I'm sure that when my dad's generation, which was the folks in the 60s, came along, my grandmother and granddad were probably thinking that some change would be made and that some positive change would be made, and there were changes made from their generation. The same with the folks of us that were in college in the 80s compared to those that in the 60s. And I guess the same could be said for those that came into college in the 2000s and now those that are coming into college in the 2020s. So it's going to be real interesting to see whether these positive changes that we think are going to come around are actually going to happen, or whether we're just going to go backwards, because things do sometimes happen in cycles. So like I said, there are definitely some positive things that are going on with what's happening in the world, but we also know there's some things that I bet you right now, and this is just my thought, I know my grandparents are no longer here, none of them, and I know that none of my great-grandparents are around, but I bet you that if they were to come back into this earth in this day and time, and even some friends of mine that have passed on in the last 5 to 10 years and reflect on what's going on now, they would be shocked that some of the battles that were being fought by them in the 40s and the 60s are still being fought in the year 2020.
And you know what? I guess one of the biggest things is to allow those young folks they want to be involved and they want to lead, and we need to guide them when they have questions to find out what didn't work, to be able to have those conversations. Well, when it was done this way, this is what failed, and have those honest conversations, because when a new set of eyes looks at a certain problem or issue or situation, then sometimes they have a better way of attacking or addressing or handling that problem. So don't stifle their voices, because the second you stifle their voices, the second you say, okay, we are content with doing the same thing the same way and continuing to run in circles. So, they've gotten to the point now, they said, well, you know what, this continues to happen. We watched it growing up and no more. So I applaud them for, taking a stand, because they could have just said, well, yeah, the old folks got it, and hopefully they do something. But instead of sitting back and just critiquing things. They are taking leadership spots. So the batons are starting to get passed. And hopefully they'll guide it all the way right. We've been turning the corner, and we've been turning the corner. So now let's see what the younger folks do with it. Give them the opportunity to let their voices and ideas and concerns and all of those things, allow it to be heard, listen to what they're saying, and also be willing to work with them, because it's the only way this thing is going to work. We can't try to sabotage them because we don't like everything we may see or hear. I'm quite sure they don't like any of it, and that's the reason why they're saying, you know what? All right, Mark Lee, Dean Geronimo, it's time. Y'all had your time. We're going to take it from here. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, nothing wrong with that at all. Definitely have to find ways to let them have their moment in the sun and things of that nature. I know I ran into a good friend of mine, Nia Wilson, who runs the Spirit House group here in North Carolina. She's definitely a sage veteran of the civil rights struggle and things of that nature. But she was even saying, she's definitely getting up there in age herself. The virus is going out there, definitely hitting people of an older age. So she has no problem with letting some of her young charges take that leadership role and letting them put their stamp on things and not trying to let put her stamp on it. She's letting them run with some ideas that they've got, even in some of the Black Lives Matter protests that are taking place here in this area. So, yes, I'm sure she's giving them advice and, sharing her wisdom and everything. But she is also letting them, as you said, put their own stamp on how things are going to go in that respect. So I think that that's what's happening, is we need to let them have time for theirs and things of that nature. Now, the other question I've got to ask you is, I know when we had the presidential run, it looks like we got Biden against that person that's currently in the office, but you didn't really, you was going to say, let it play out, didn't really care. He has said that he's going to meet Biden, that he's going to have a woman as his VP. Now, it seems like some of them have stepped off the playing field. I think Amy has stepped off, and a number of the others may have stepped off as well. Do you have one that you would like to see take the role of VP, since he has already said he wants a woman as VP? So do you have anybody in mind of those that you're looking at that you think would be a good one for Mr. Biden? Dean? Dean is pondering. He's trying to think if there's anybody that he really likes that much.
No, you know what? No, not really. I'm still not, and I don't know what happened with this thing here, but as soon as I clicked it, it cut me off. But that's the beauty of this thing that we call live radio, right? Right. I'm still not looking, to be honest with you, because I need to hear what folks are talking about. It's nice to say, oh, you can pick this person. I mean, hell, we look at houses and say, it'd be nice to live in that house. It'll be nice to drive that car. But then when you look at what's realistic, you say, you know what, I can't move into that house right there because I don't feel like making that payment, or I can't make that payment. I can't drive that car because even though it looks real nice, that premium gas is going to beat me down. So same with these elections, everybody's talking about who should it be. Once it's set in stone, I'll start paying attention, because all of the what ifs and maybes and coulda, shoulda, and should be's, to me, are wasting my time. Like I said, I don't vote until November anyway. Being independent, we don't vote in the primary. So, I'm like, we'll see what happens. We'll see if he names it, and then it could be that talk. So what happens if we're talking about what ifs? All of the talk about picking a woman vice president, and then he changes his mind and picks somebody else, a male, or, what happens at that point? Everybody's going to be mad. Everybody's in their feelings. I just want to know, what can you do in reference to taxes, Social Security, education, and prison reform? Past that, I'm not really, hanging on to every word that's said or every promise that's made, because a promise without follow through is a lie to me. So I'm not gonna sit there and stress myself out. I'm gonna let them stress And then I'll vote in November as to who speaks to my better interests. And that's the only thing that I can do. You know, some people are like, "Oh, we got to get Trump out. We got to do this and we got to do that." But when we look historically, has there ever been a president that was 100% liked? Number one, or a president that fulfilled all of his campaign promises? Number two, which is impossible because if Congress doesn't let it fly, it won't get by. So now we have, you know, it has the one at 1600 been really worse than Ronald Reagan, Daddy Bush, you know, even Bill Clinton, man? Like, has he really been worse than all of them, or is he more of the same? And that's the thing that, you know, we need someone who's going to be able to work with Congress to get things done, not work against Congress or Congress working against them, to have something that's beneficial for some of all of us, you know? And that's the hardest part.
Yeah, that's the real hard part, and you're absolutely right about that. I was just reading a post that Carl Kenny, our good friend, put out on his Facebook and everything. He was actually talking about a person that is definitely labeled as one of the worst generals of the Civil War, and he still has major things named after him. Can you guess who that general is?
Would that be Robert E. Lee?
Close. It is Braxton Bragg. Braxton Bragg, a general of the Confederate Army, is considered the worst general of the Civil War. It is rumored he was born in prison after his mother was incarcerated for murdering a free black man. He was so hated, it's alleged his soldiers attempted to assassinate him on 2 occasions. And Carl asked him, did he mention that he owned 105 slaves on his sugar plantation? So then the question that Carl is asking is, why is there a military base, meaning Fort Bragg, and a city in California named in his honor? And so he then asked the question, could it be Southern white privilege? So definitely that could be a reason that these things are happening. That they got that privilege and they figure that they can name it after somebody that was atrocious. Not just bad, but atrocious.
Well, these names weren't new. These names came about. Most of our people were still slaves. So, you know, there was no input. Like, nobody was going to go to the slaves and say, hey, y'all, we think we should name this right here. So it was all, slave masters, plantation owners who became we have enough people here. We want to incorporate this town. What do we want to name it? Braxton, you know, or Bragg, or whatever. And they just kept adding on for their buddies and their friends, and that's how most of these places got these names.
Yeah, that's how they get those names. Folks just were not thinking about that in the least bit. So if you could, I think we're going to try to get you to put it on the spot. I'm going to try to see if I can't track down. I sent him an email, but if you got his number, you want to call him, but I'll call him as well. We'll see if we can't figure out where Mr. Your buddy is at, Mr. Sheldon. See if we can't track him down and get him on the air and everything. But if you want to put on some spots, I'll try to give him a buzz. Maybe you'll try to give him a buzz. But one of us will give him a buzz because I've already sent him an email. So if you want to try to give him a call or you want me to give him a call, it's really up to you. But either one, or maybe we'll both give him a call.
We're going to try to find them. But while we're doing that, y'all, it's Straight Talk with Dean and Mark, all right?
The old Renaissance is the new Renaissance, standing on tradition while embracing the spirit of distinction. This is the Harlem Brewing Company. Uniquely crafted beer brewed to deliver a taste, a sound, and a feeling that can only be described in one way, Harlem style. So come and take a trip on the A train with our Harlem Sugar Hill Golden Ale and our Harlem Renaissance Whipped, the neighborhood original.
Are you looking to make your next event sizzle? Then you want to get in touch with Lee Entertainment. Mark Lee, the founder of Lee Entertainment, has worked with such notable festivals as the Art of Cool, the National Black Theater Festival, the Bull Durham Blues Festival, and the Durham Centerfest, as well as the Festival of the Eno. And it definitely can provide you with some great entertainers as well as help you make your event sizzle if you're looking forward to trying to have an event in your town. Mark Lee is willing to travel anywhere in this country to make your event sizzle and has entertainers that are also willing to travel as well. So if you're looking for quality entertainment, definitely get in touch at bluesradio@gmail.com.
Every day I wake up at 5 a.m. to give Dad his medicine. Every day I wake up at 5 a.m. to give Dad his medicine. At 6 a.m. I make his breakfast. Every day I wake up at 5 a.m. to give Dad his medicine. At 6 a.m. I make his breakfast. At 7 a.m. I shower. Every day I wake up at 5 a.m. to give Dad his medicine. At 6 a.m. I make his breakfast. At 7 a.m. I shower. I start laundry at 8. At 10, we go for a walk. Every day I wake up at 5 a.m.
For those dealing with the daily struggles of caring for a loved one, we hear you. That's why AARP created a community with experts and other caregivers for advice, tips, and support. Together, let's help each other better care for ourselves and the ones we love. Visit aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
This is Nikki Hall, founder of Simply Radiant LLC, a woman with great passion and skill to make you look and feel better. Meet me where you are. Let's take it to another level, a new you. See you soon. Call 919-971-6243. Make your place today.
911, what is your emergency?
My kid shot himself.
All right, where's the wound?
911, what's your emergency?
Please help. My son shot his brother. 911, what is your emergency? 911, please state your emergency.
Every day, 8 kids and teens are unintentionally killed or injured by loaded and unlocked guns.
It wasn't locked.
Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and End Family Fire.
All right, Dean, we're back. Hello?
Yeah, we're back.
But
You're back.
Yeah,
okay.
I was at fault, so that's all right. But we got Sheldon on the line.
Oh.
I was at fault. I was supposed to send a follow-up call, and that didn't quite happen. But that's all right. We're going to talk about the Veterans Reset Center because we got Sheldon on the line right now. So we're going to jump onto this conversation. So I will acknowledge when I'm at fault. I was at fault.
Well, you know what? Since you were at fault, Mr. Stewart, welcome to Straight Talk with Dean and Mark. You're now on the line. Let the people know who you are, where you're calling from, and what you do.
What's up, Jim? How you guys doing? Yeah,
all right.
My name is Sheldon Stewart. I am from Southern New Jersey, and I'm a veteran, and I'm excited to be on your show.
Well, we definitely appreciate you being on this show. So tell us about the Veterans Reset Center and what you are doing for the veterans. Because, you know, a lot of people are going through a lot of things because of what's happening with the pandemic, with the economy. We know a lot of people are being hit by the economy, including our veterans. So exactly what does the Veterans Reset Center do? Does it only do it in New Jersey? Do y'all do it around the country? Do you do it around the world? Is there other reset centers that you're in cahoots with and in conjunction with? Tell us about the Veterans Reset Center and who you work with directly and how you get folks back into the community. Because like I said, I know a lot of veterans, whether they have served in the past, because we've had a lot of wars going, you know, decades and centuries, all the way back to like the Civil War and wars way back then. But definitely we've had veterans that have tried to get back into society. This is just my personal opinion. I want to know what you think. I think it became even harder for veterans to get acclimated into society once we got into like the Vietnam War. And of course now we've gone through the wars in the Middle East. Of course we're going through different things that are going on in the world now. But it seems to me that veterans, and maybe the World War II veterans had it hard too, but no, that would have been my grandparents' age and things of that nature. But it definitely seems to me that ever since the Vietnam War, it became, and maybe it's because we had that whole peace movement that was going on, and a lot of people did not have the same kind of respect for veterans that they used to. But just what is your opinion? When did it get more difficult for veterans to get accepted in society, in your opinion?
Okay. Well, let's start back from the beginning. Basically, the Veterans Research Center, I work for the Department of Veteran Affairs, And as I stated earlier, I'm a veteran. I'm an Army veteran, MP Corps. And basically what happened is during my time here at the VA, I've noticed there's been an increasing number of homeless veterans. You stated something that is so true. It is extremely hard for veterans when we get out adjusting back to society because we're used to, the strict regimen and the routine of being in the military, getting up a certain time, doing this, doing that, your rooms, your bunk's supposed to be a certain way, even in our houses and stuff, and the way we conduct and carry ourselves, in the community. And I noticed that a lot of veterans, when we get out, we don't know how to adjust. And, being here at the VA, I noticed that the VA, our budget is pretty much established by Congress. Congress established how much money we have and what we can spend on blah, 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 blah. And that's detrimental to the veterans because sometimes, as you guys know, being business owners, you have to allocate your funds to other programs and other avenues, which let other programs, sometimes take a hit. And I've noticed an increasing number of, homeless veterans and veterans without jobs and, veterans getting benefits, but it's not a lot because of their conditions, wherever the case may be. So I decided to, start a nonprofit, the Veterans Research Center, like you said, incorporated here in Southern New Jersey. Right now, we're only in Southern New Jersey for right now because, we just started up. It was my brainchild that came to me back in December of 2018. Right now, we're in negotiations with county administrators here in South Jersey. Prior to the pandemic, we were actually in the final phase of negotiations for our first building here in South Jersey. But once the pandemic hit, everyone had to start working from home, virtual and stuff. And it also benefited us because, we didn't want to bring veterans in, a veteran in that may have had the virus, and then other veterans get exposed to it. So it actually worked out great. So now we can have the precautions in place, for screening them when they're coming in for our program. And basically our program is, is very simple. We take homeless veterans. And, I don't like calling them homeless, but we'll call them disenfranchised veterans. And we bring them into our facilities. We let them stay there for a period up to 6 months. During that time in there, we give them job placement training, resume writing skills, computer skills, basically all the tools they need, and to find out where do they want to go, where do they want, what's your goals, what's your aspirations, what type of job do you want, and we try to prepare them for that. So when they're done with the program, we've already worked out a contract with New Jersey HUD down here in South Jersey. When they're done with the program, they can walk out into a job. We'll help them, with their, with the job, job hunting, and get them a job. And then through New Jersey HUD, they'll be able to get themselves, their own apartment, their own place, and they can get back into society as functioning citizens. We're also going to extend services to veterans that will be getting out of the military. Because one thing you may realize is that when we veterans get out of the military, the biggest problem is translating our military skills to our civilian counterparts. If I'm sitting up there and I'm talking about, I'll use myself as an example, MP, I'm talking about BIP escorts and POW missions and nuclear security and physical security and all that stuff. How does that equate to the civilian? They're like, okay, what in the world is he talking about? And if I want to be a cop, they're going to be like, okay, well, we don't do that. That's what security guards is for. But I have to translate all my military experience into civilian. A lot of us don't know how to do it. I mean, we really don't. You can have somebody that's a computer tech in the military, is the equivalent to an IT specialist in the civilian sector, and they don't know how to translate their experience to their counterpart in the civilian sector, and they get frustrated because they get denied a job like I did, 15 years of this, and this isn't right, how is this happening? And then you look at the resume and be like, well, sir, sergeant or whomever, well, they don't know what this means. But no one taught them how to translate that to civilian language. So, we're also going to, catch them veterans when they're coming out within 12 months of discharge and let them start working on the resumes right now, get them squared away. So when they walk off that base and they have their 214 and their retirement papers or whatever discharge papers in their hand, that they can walk right into a job. They have a job lined up. They're good to go. They start networking. They start building bridges, as we call it in one of my organizations. and keep on building them bridges and cross on over into civilian life and don't lose any income. Don't make a what's the word I'm looking for? You don't want it to be a detriment to the family structure because as we all know, money is one of the biggest problems, and you don't want to go from being an E7 making a certain amount of income to walking out to no job or you're making barely minimum wage because no one taught you how to do your resume, do it the right way. Now the family's impacted, so we're going to try our best to do everything we can with that as well. Now another thing you said that is so right on point is like you did the research, which I'm glad you did prior to this call. It is very, very hard. The World War II veterans, they're what we call the proud generation. They were proud to serve, of course, fighting, the Axis powers and everything. They were proud to serve, and they came home. And we don't have, too much with the, here at the VA. We don't have too much with them because, they were the proud generation. They were the generation, America through and through. We fought the Nazis. We won. We fought oppression, blah, 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 blah. And then just like what you said earlier, Vietnam had changed because as we all know, we all study history. Our brothers and sisters came home from Vietnam. They were spit on. A lot of people didn't agree with the war. They didn't agree with Johnson and Nixon and sending the troops over there to fight across seas in a war when we had problems here at home. A lot of people didn't agree with that. And then it trickles on down to today, even with the, global war on terror and, during when I served, during, Desert Storm. A lot of people don't agree with that because we have problems here at home and we're not even fixing our own problems and we're going over there. Now, the one thing I will say is that veterans getting out today, there's more respect for the flag. It's like, when you tell someone you served, they're like, oh, thank you, blah, blah, blah. No, it wasn't easy. But, like you stated earlier, the Vietnam veterans, when they got out, they were like, baby killer and all that, racist and all this stuff and all the terms and spit on that they were when they came back home. But people didn't understand. These men and women were just doing their job, whether they agree with it or not. That's the one thing with the military. Whether we agree with it or not, we have to do our job, but we also have an avenue to voice our discontent with the decision. But we have to, you have to do it in a proper way. So everything you just said was right on point. It is harder, and it's even harder today, like I stated earlier, when we get out because we're such a technology-based environment. That, when I got out back in 97, we were still making that transition. Now it's like everything's computers. You got to have something in computers. Like being an MP today, when I got out years, I hate to age myself, but getting out over 20 years ago, when you got out, I was an MP, okay, I could walk into the police academy. Now, no, you got to have computer skills. You got to have this. You got to have that. You got to have that extra skill set so you can walk into these jobs. So you have to pick up other things, and it's harder. And I can understand why so many veterans, are becoming homeless because no one is teaching them. And then even the ones that, from the Vietnam era, a lot of them that are homeless, they're in that situation because of the atrocities of war. It's a shame to say this, but a lot of our homeless veterans are combat veterans because they can't adjust because the VA's maxed out in their resources, and now it's time for society to step in and take over. The old saying, it takes a village to raise a child, was the same thing. It takes a village to, welcome a veteran back because the veteran, he or she went out and fought for you. Now they're back home. Show some appreciation, help them get back on their feet. They might be a combat veteran. They might hear a car backfire and have a relapse. We don't know. No one knows what we have went through, and it just seems like society just brushed us off to the side, and I can't, I couldn't in my heart keep climbing up the VA ladder and keep doing the things I'm doing through my organization and see my veterans on the side saying, need help, this, and this, and just tear my heart apart. But yet and still we're worried about building a wall down in Mexico, or we're worried about, 6 people coming up with the coronavirus, and you're like, wait a minute, but hold up. You still got veterans sitting out there that need help. You can kill 2 birds with one stone. Prioritize. Take care of home first, and then take care of everything else. And home is the veterans, and and we need help, and we're crying for it, and we need our politicians to start paying attention.
Yeah, it sounds like y'all definitely need to get the politicians more involved and things of that nature. I know that you told me that you're actually thinking about running for office at some point, and we'll talk about that as well. But you brought up something that I really found interesting, and I've had this conversation with some friends of mine, some that even do like gang intervention and things of that nature. And that's that whole concept of, we're having all this thing because of George Floyd and Black Lives Matter about police brutality and things of that nature. Now, we do know that sometimes people that are coming from the military are trying to get into the police force. Now, there's the thought that some of the people that are police officers are ex-military and that they weren't necessarily trained in how to do police work. So they become police officers and maybe they learn certain things, but they still have some of that military mindset. And this might be some of our white officers or some of the white police officers that have this mindset. But I guess it could be even some of the brothers and sisters as well. But what are some of your thoughts on that? Have you seen that in your own life, that some of these people are coming from military backgrounds and they might have been MPs and then they try to join the police force, but they still have some of those things that were taught in a different environment? Because, like if you're in the heat of a war, doing policing in that kind of environment is going to be much different than trying to do it in a neighborhood, whether that's in Camden, whether that's in Durham, whether that's in the Watts over there in California, or wherever it might be here in the United States.
Exactly. Well, I'm glad you said that because it's disheartening and it breaks my heart. Somebody who's getting ready to run for public office, I have to be careful, with my posts and things that I say because, I need the people's votes, to help make change. And it breaks my heart because a lot of them are former military police officers. And I'll share a little insight. Back in the 90s when I was in, we were, certain military police officers were selected to go to the academy, to the state police academies and learn about policing. We know about policing. We know about patrolling. We know about, security. We know about apprehension. We know about levels of force. All that stuff is the same stuff that's taught in the in the military academy. The one I went to was in Fort McClellan, Alabama. Now I believe it's in Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. But to any event, it saddens me and breaks my heart because that's not taught in the military. That's not taught in the military. In the military, when we go through our military police training and everything, we are taught basically there is no cover. I've had quite a few incidents. It's always funny when you're talking about military police because it's generally Marines. I've had quite a few incidents with Marines, having to calm them down and everything. Great men and women, definitely. But the thing is we're not taught color. We're taught, there's an agitator, we need to squash it. If there's a violator of a crime, we need to go ahead and, enforce the law there. The problem is this stuff that's going on today is not taught in any academy. This stuff that's going on today, it's what's in them. It's what's in them. And I know, not to be on one side or the other. The sad part is that this is what they're being taught when they get to their home duty stations. So you can have someone say the conversation say out in Tabernacle, North Dakota or whatever, and they go to the, they just got out of the police academy and they're going to their duty station. Their duty station, when they get there, those veteran officers are the ones that's telling them this, and this. I've had plenty of conversations with a deputy sheriff down here in South Jersey, and he tells me all the time, they're telling these rookies that because the rookies always get assigned to, a quote-unquote veteran officer. That veteran officer, he or she, is teaching them and telling them, okay, this, and this. Don't go to this house. Don't go there. Don't go that. Yeah, that guy there, he always does this, and this. They're the gangs and this, and this. Now, don't get me wrong. We do have gangs in the military. It's just not as prevalent. But when you're in the civilian sector, they know all this stuff. They know, okay, that one's this one, this one's this one, this one, this one, blah, blah, blah. And they teach them that stereotype. That's being taught at their home duty stations. This isn't something in the academy. Now, you and I, all three of us know, and our listeners probably know that, a lot of this stuff is also taught growing up. They tell you don't mess with this type of person. And once you see this, well, that's what they're like, and this, and this. It's like even in the black race, it's like like that movie School Days where they had the Jigaboo and the wannabes and stuff. We have it even within our own race, and we always stereotype and think, well, you want to be like me and this, and it's like, why? Where's all this come from? And Spike Lee made light of it, but he was telling the truth that we're our worst enemy. Society is their worst enemy, and they're teaching this stuff in the home. Then when you get in the military breaks you of that stuff, but then you get back out, and especially in law enforcement, when you get to the academy and you've done the academy and you go to the duty station, they're reinforcing it back to you. So it does break my heart to see so many of these officers, they are veterans. They know there is no color. I watched so many specials where veterans said, I didn't know color when I was out. And I'm talking about Vietnam veterans and Desert Storm veterans, saying, we didn't see this. We don't know where this is coming from. This is it. Because it's being taught. It's the attitude of America and this society that has been awakened, that has been dormant for years. We all got relaxed when Obama got in office and served his 2 terms, and now that spirit has been awakened. And now everyone's running for the hills saying, what do we do? What do we do? Well, you need to start with first things first. What's your house, 123 some street in some town, USA? That's where you need to start. In your house first and teach your kids what's right and wrong. And, not to go biblical, but, do unto others that you want to do unto you, and that's what they need to start doing.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And the other thing that I know that has really come up in a lot of the conversation, and I was just wondering what your thoughts on this are and everything, is I know a lot of times people are talking about there's this whole movement. I know here in Durham, we've had it in Minnesota, this whole concept of defunding the police. Now, when I hear that term, I think what they're really trying to say is to loosen up the funding in terms of major amounts of like the cost of the buildings and also some of these military style equipment, because I do know that some of the police departments are getting like military style equipment, and some of the people in these cities, whether it's Durham, whether it's DC or whatever, are trying to figure out like, why do we need a tank? Why do we need some of this equipment that is more known as a military kind of equipment? So I'm just wondering what some of your thoughts are when you hear people talking about maybe scaling back on some of the funding of the police and things of that nature, and particularly some of the military-style equipment that is being provided to our police forces.
Well, I think, honestly, from what I've been studying, this is the first turn to a military state. They want everything to be controlled by the state, and that's where they're wrong. They want, just like here in New Jersey, the Camden Police Force. I'm sure everybody knows about it, so I can use them as an example. They defunded the Camden Police Force and made it now under the Camden County Police. So now the county controls that. So now so basically it's the state funds now. It's not the city no more. It's the state funds. They're trying to make it a military state that they have, judge, jury, and executioner, and I think that's the wrong thing to do. That's the wrong thing to do, because once you get into something like that, where's your rights and benefits right there? Where's your sense of pride? Because if the state says that we can do A, B, C, D, that comes from the state. That comes from the state now. It's not county now. A city. Now it comes from the state, and that opens up a serious can of worms. People are asking for them to do this and do that. What the mom and dad always tell us: be careful what you wish for, because they want them to defund the Minnesota. Out there in Minnesota, want to defund them, and down there where you're at, I'm just telling people, think about what you're saying, because once the state gets in control, there is nothing you can do about it. Excuse my French, all hell is going to break loose. And as far as the military style equipment, no, I don't see no need. I didn't like that even out there in Los Angeles with the O.J. Simpson case and everything, when they had them tanks out there. I don't see no need for the police to have tanks and this and all that stuff. That's why you got the National Guard. Now they can have the Kevlar equipment, for SWAT and stuff like that, because as we do know, we're not naive. Situations do happen, and you're going to need that extra equipment. But as far as military grade, weapons, M16 stuff, no, you don't need all that stuff. No. You are the police. You're not the military. But remember, if they defund it, now it's state. So now with state, what does that mean? Now they can get that military grade stuff. So I see what they're doing, and I hear people saying, no. And I'm like, I'm telling you, be careful what you ask for, because once you get the states involved, we all know that. History has shown us. Once you get the states involved, you're in the world of trouble. And now the states can make their own rules as long as it doesn't violate the United States Constitution. They can, and how attorneys are. They know how to take a word and be like, but it says but it says and it says with, and they'll take the little words to justify their actions on what they did. So I think that it's a terrible move. I don't agree with defunding. They need to leave it under the control of the cities, because when you leave it under control of the cities, they can control their supply and demand like that, and you won't see all this military grade stuff. But once you go to a county like here in Jersey, now the county is under the state. Now that opens the door to all more of that stuff. Now you guys tell me and the listeners, what the reason would you have to have a tank on the police force? Ain't that many people in the United States that got mansions like that to want a tank? Why do you need a tank on the police force? Why do you need an M16 on the police force? Really? I mean, yeah, drug dealers, this and this. Well, I thought y'all were getting the guns off the street. What happened with that? So, they're going to justify why they get this military style equipment, but then the people need to make their voice be heard. The people need to turn around and say, well, I thought y'all took care of that. Y'all had the, no ass, just drop off your weapons, no ass, this, and this. I thought y'all cleaned that up or got the majority of them off the street. Now you're telling us that they're back on the street. So what did you do with all those other weapons?
A lot of here there are going to be something about healthy living and things of that nature. So this should be.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Got some interference going on there.
Yeah, I think I'm getting a little feed in the background.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're good now.
Okay, cool. But yeah, so you're absolutely right that there's so much of that going on and people not even understanding what they're dealing with and everything. Like I said, I was actually surprised. Like I said, you you came into the service in the 90s, so that would have been right before the Gulf War and everything. But I think a lot of people are even shocked that war that started in, I guess it was 2001 or maybe right before 2001, is still going on, because I know a lot of folks are still shocked that these things are still happening, and a lot of people thought that one war was going to end or another war was going to end. So what has been your thoughts on that? Are you surprised that we are still in the Middle East, or did you think that this would have been done a long time ago? And I would also love to hear some of your reflections on what is going on in terms of the coronavirus. Are you in good place with you and your family? Are you doing the social distancing, and are you doing everything that you should be doing? And do you feel that the military is doing everything that it should be doing in regards to what's going on with the social distancing and the wearing of the mask and things of that nature?
Well, to answer your first part, as far as the Gulf War, but the Gulf War actually started August 1990. I was in basic training. That's when the Gulf War actually started, and it never ended. I always reflect on what Hussein said before he was executed. He said that the United States will never leave that area, and here we are still there today. And there's really not a war going on. It's the quote-unquote global war of terror. But I'm going to throw something out to your listeners. A lot of people don't realize it. We're not in a period of war. Congress never declared war. The last time Congress declared war was World War II. So Korea, Vietnam, and the Gulf War was never a declaration of war. So, I mean, it's like wow, when you think about it, you're like, dang, you're right. They never declared war, but yet still we call it a war, and we're sending brothers and sisters over there to fight in what we call a war that we have no business being there. Now, we understand why we went over there, the Russians and Afghanistan and all that stuff. And then in turn, when Hussein decided he wanted to take over Kuwait, we all knew it was about money. We knew it was all about the war, about the oil fields. But the problem is that, like what he said, once you came over there, you were never going to leave. And even though Obama did his best to bring many of our brothers and sisters home, we still need to have a presence over there just in case, because of U.S. interests over there in that area. I've never agreed with it. I'm fortunate and blessed that when the Gulf War actually took off, troop movement ceased, and I was stationed down in Fort Jackson, South Carolina, so I was one of the fortunate ones. But then it's like, when you think about it and hear, my brothers and sisters coming home, and when they come to the VA, I talk to them and hear them talk about their stories, it just cringes, makes my heart cringe, because I'm like, we had no business being over there in the first place. Why were we there? This had nothing to do about loss of life. This had to do about U.S. interest in oil fields. That's all this was about, money. And it's like, wow, I done lost so many friends that I'll probably never see again over there. And for what? for an oil field, and we got all these reserves here in the United States, I'm going to leave that alone. Especially with that Alaskan pipeline. I'm just going to leave that alone right there. But as far as your other part with the coronavirus, yes, I've been blessed. I've been protected. My social distancing has been excellent. I haven't even invited my dean over my house yet, and he should have been the first one. So I'm being good. And everybody knows when a few people that have come over. The hand sanitizer right there. Bathroom. Nope. Bathroom first, and then we sit down and I'm chop it up. Then when they leave, I make sure I wipe everything down. I mean, not saying I don't trust them, but you don't know because no one knows. Right. They say it's respiratory, right? So if it's respiratory, then that means it's in the air. So no one truly knows what the cause is or where it came from. They always want to put a label on something. They will say, oh, it came from the Chinese. Just like back in the 80s, AIDS came from blacks, and monkeys. Right. Don't nobody know where this stuff came from, but they want to attribute it to something because it always does what? It boosts their cause. It boosts what they are standing for, what they're fighting against, and people rally right on behind it, So, I've been blessed. I've been keeping in touch with my two children, my daughter in Florida, my son in Texas, and I talk to them every week. I just tell them, hey, look, where you going? What you doing? Where you been? Blah blah blah. Do you got masks? Blah blah blah. This and this, and I'm keeping them on top of that. As far as the military, they've shut down the bases. So you can't even get on the bases. So I mean, I'm a veteran, and as I said earlier, and I can get on the base, anytime I want. They've closed the base off to anybody that's not on active duty status. So you can't even get on the base. If you're not on the base, you ain't getting on the base. So I do like what they're doing, and it's funny to hear you mention that because what the Navy did to that captain of that ship, in my opinion, was just a disgrace. The one thing they tell us, especially, when you're non-commissioned officer, that's when you reach the rank of E5 and above. And when you're a officer, when you come out fresh as an 01, they tell you it's the troops first. It's always the troops first. So this man went out there and he pleaded with the government, basically. We need help. I got 80-some sailors infected. I need help here. We're all about to die. And then they reinstate him, and now they fire him. I mean, they didn't even reassign him. They fired him. So they're forcing him into retirement for what? The creed is of the troops or for the troops. So where did that man go wrong? So as far as that aspect is concerned, the military completely dropped the ball on that because that man should not have been relieved of his command. They should have brought the resources in and got that shit cleaned up and got them sailors the help that they needed. What they did to that man was a disgrace. I don't agree with the military on that part, but as far as everything else they're doing and keeping the contact at a minimum, I do agree with that 1,000%. I mean, I really have no need to go up on the base anyway unless I want to go to the Class 6, and I don't drink like that no more, so I don't need to go up on the base for that. But it's very disheartening. With him, but I do like what they're doing, and they're keeping the troops, protected because at any second anybody around the world can act up, and our troops got to go. And you got to make sure that they're always in what we call in one of my organizations fighting trim. They always got to be in shape. So I definitely agree with them on that.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, one of the other things that I've heard people talking about is this whole concept. I've got a good friend, and he's actually on the show before, Captain Newborn, and Captain is just his first name, not even the ranking that he actually held and everything. But I think he had some folks that served in the military some time back. But he's got a group called Next Level Veterans, and they've done some advocacy work for the veterans. And I know that he's always complaining about he felt that not enough of the veterans were getting help from the VA, and a lot of the statistics that he was getting from the VA were really troubling to him in terms of like the kind of help that they were getting from mental health and some of the other things that were going on. As one who is involved in that work in New Jersey, what is your take on that? Do you think that we're doing enough in terms of helping our veterans as they come back, whether it's through mental health or through some of their physical health or through some of the things of that nature? Because like I said, I know that Captain Newborn has been on this show before, and he talked about that. And then we've done like some shows traveling around the state of North Carolina, and I think he may have even done some speaking outside of the state of North Carolina, where he talks about not on his watch that he would like to see more of these kind of things that he has seen that he's concerned about not happen. And he has some statistics that are not coming to my head right now off the top of my head, but I know that there were some very startling statistics, and this was even before Corona hit and everything. So I was just wondering, how do you think we're doing in terms of treating our veterans, in your opinion, as you have been working with them for a number of years and being a veteran yourself?
Well, I'll throw you one stat out. 2 out of 5 veterans commit suicide a day. So I'll let that sink in for a second. Because the thing is like what I stated earlier, and I try, I love the VA. I've been there for almost 10 years. It's an excellent company to work for, an excellent agency. But everyone keeps blaming the VA. And every time when I go out for these veteran outreach events, I try to tell them it's not the VA. Congress sets our budget. If Congress if they give you, let's just keep it in simple terms. If they give you $1 and you got 5 programs, but you got to spread that dollar out between all 5 programs as best you can, and you got to prioritize the ones over the others and this. What are you going to do? Now, it's a shame that a lot isn't allocated into mental health, but I can't sit back and have people keep using the VA as an excuse. You have state mental health. If you have a mental health problem and it's attributed to the military, and you can't get in to see your counselor, stay for 3 months, nothing is stopping you from contacting your state. All up and down New Jersey, all up and down 295 here in southern New Jersey, there are billboards up for mental health, addiction, social problems, this, all stuff. Contact, crisis lines and this. The advertisements are out there. Maybe people just aren't looking at them because they're driving too fast or something. I don't know. But the advertisements are up there. Even 45, in his wisdom, he even signed an executive order for, more resources for mental health, because he sees one of the things he did see correctly. He does see that there is a problem with mental health in our country at this time, and it needs to be addressed. But back to your point about the VA, people have to stop saying the VA. If you got 5 counselors and you got, we'll just use here in the tri-state area, you got, say there's a clinic here and they got 5 counselors, and with those 5 counselors, they will say, for conversation, 1,500 veterans with diagnosed mental health conditions. How is he or she supposed to get that in if the VA is only giving them a certain amount, this, and this? And most of the counseling sessions, I have my counselors, most of the counseling sessions don't last an hour. They're actually longer than that, depending on what the topic is that day. So how are they supposed to do that? How are they supposed to do that if the budget as required for just this clinic, the budget is only allocated for 5 mental health counselors? What are they supposed to do? That's where I think, to me, the VA needs to reach out to the state and tell the state, hey, can you help us out with this? We have so many veterans coming back from the war with mental health issues. It's overwhelming us. Can you help us out? Sorry, I dropped my phone. They can say, can you help us out? Can you start taking on some of our veterans and, just keep us abreast of the mental health treatments and this, and just transfer it over, because everybody knows it's a click of a button. So once they put their treatment in the system, they can hit a button and transfer it over to the VA. It's so people. We have a poem called Excuses, and I'm sure your listeners already know about that poem, so we'll just leave it alone. But it's like people are making excuses for everything, and it's like, when are you going to stop making excuses and look in the mirror? Okay, yeah, Congress set the VA budget at $19 billion. Okay, the VA had to spread that out over all their agencies and all their clinics. Now they're tapped out. Not to mention, and that's just getting the resources to the clinic and the regional offices. Don't forget, you also got to pay people in this overtime, because there's an increase in claims now. Because veterans, as like you said earlier, a lot of them are getting out. A lot of the Vietnam veterans are now filing their claims. A lot of the surviving World War II veterans that are in their 80s and 90s, they're coming and filing claims. The claims, pool has increased. So with that increase, you're going to need more money, but Congress isn't doing that, and they're not giving the VA the money. So what's the VA supposed to do? So this is where the states, if our Governor Murphy is listening, this is where he needs to step in. He needs to reach out, or have his lieutenant governor or whomever reach out to the VA and be like, hey, what can we do to help? Can you start sending some of your veterans, we'll take some of your veterans at our state-funded, mental health facilities, and we'll transfer your records and this, and this, and help get them along. There are so many things that we can do, but everyone's pointing at one thing, the VA, the VA, the VA. I mean, I remember, when I talk to veterans and I ask them about their claim and this, and this, and then when you look at the claim, you find out, no, that wasn't the VA, that was you. Why didn't you send the form back? Oh, I didn't know what it was. Well, why didn't you read it? Oh, I just saw it was something. I just threw it away. Well, no wonder why you ain't gonna get it. Why didn't you contact your doctor? Oh, I didn't know. I thought y'all did it. No, you got to go to your doctor. So it's a two-way street. So the veterans got to seek out for help. They come to the VA and seek out for help. We thank you. If the VA is overbooked and they don't have enough people on board to take care of their veterans, that's when we should refer them to the state mental health facilities and let them start getting treated. There is no excuse on God's green earth for a veteran or any human being to not have access to mental health resources, and I can't buy it. I can't buy it, and no one can tell me that. I'm sorry. Go.
No,
go
I
ahead,
was going to say, I can definitely understand that. I was also wondering, now you mentioned earlier about how hard it is for the veterans and how many veterans are also homeless. And I know that there's a decent amount of homeless people even here in Durham where I'm at. I've actually was out walking early to get some food, and I saw one of the guys that I believe is homeless, and I know there's another guy that I did not see this time, but I usually do see him, and there's no doubt that he is homeless, and I believe he served in one of the veteran kind of roles as well. But just tell me why you think that is, because it seems to me that should be the first group that we would want to house, is the people that have served our country and have done this kind of work for us. But just how bad is the homeless problem there in the New Jersey area? And if you can speak to New York, that would be great too. But also just if you have any statistics on the country, if you know any of those. But how bad is the veteran homeless population? Because it seems to me that every time I turn around, I'm running across veterans that are homeless, and sometimes Dean can speak to this as well. Sometimes, unfortunately, they also get caught up in the criminal system and wind up getting into our prisons. But just if you could speak to a little bit of that as to how deep the problem is with our veterans and the homeless population.
All right. Well, you open up a can of worms with that prison topic, because that has become a problem as well. But I'm glad you asked about the statistics. I happen to have one of my company's pamphlets in my hand, and this is as of 2019. The National Alliance to End Homelessness said that over 610,042 people experience homeless on any given night in the United States. And then it states just here in New Jersey alone, there's a 8.5% increase in homeless veterans here in New Jersey alone. And that's coming from information that I got from the National Alliance to End Homelessness. And back in the stat before that, it shows in fiscal year 2016, there were 583 reported veterans in New Jersey. And that's an increase of 4.8% in 2016, with 400,000 veterans residing in New Jersey. Now, mind you, the key word in there is reported. A lot of veterans that are homeless, no one knows about. There are so many veterans out there that are homeless that no one knows about. They didn't identify themselves as a veteran or this and this. And as you know, veterans, we are proud people. No matter what our discharge was, we are proud people, and we don't want to, we like to keep stuff, play it close to your chest. Like in the military, we have that camaraderie where I'm going to tell, my private or this or my senior instill this and this, because we have the relationship. Now I'm in this civilian sector. I don't know you. I remember when I bought my house last year down here in South Jersey, my neighbor across the street, was kind of hesitant to introduce himself. But once we identified ourselves as both Army veterans, he's like one of my best friends. Visits me, and we talk and everything. But it's a terrible stat, but it goes back to the preparation of our veterans prior to them getting out. I remember when I got out, and this is no lie, I'm sure some of your listeners can even back me on this. When I got out, they gave me a DD 214, my medal, and a handshake and said, thanks for your service. Now, I know now, what I know now, I would have planned my discharge, definitely planned, my after discharge, a year in advance. But I didn't know. I just knew I was going to, I wanted to be a cop. I wanted to be a cop. And I was out testing, but I didn't start testing until 4 months before I got out. So that was my fault. But no one sat down and talked to me and said, what's your career goals once you get out? What is it you want to do? Blah, blah, and prepared me for that. They just gave me a 214, my medals, a handshake, and said, thanks for your service. I was like, wow, ain't this something? And now, with that being said, that's why I'm even more adamant to catch my fellow veterans before they walk off some bases, because they need to know you need to start planning now. If you're getting out in December of this year, you should have started planning December of last year. You should have started networking and reaching out and find out what you want to do. Go to counseling services. Once we get our building up and running, you can contact us. Come on down, and we'll. I have social workers that'll be able to work with you and work out what we call IDP, which is the Individual Development Plan, and they'll sit down and work with you and start building them bridges to reach out to these various companies and these contracts that are quote unquote veteran friendly. So you can walk into a job and this, and this. But it's so sad. And then when you talked about earlier, a few minutes ago, about the prisons, this is why so many veterans are committing crimes, because they're frustrated. They get out, they can't find a job, they get a job at Wawa or at a gas station or at a supermarket, and they feel it's beneath them. A lot of them don't walk off the base retired. I have my first sergeant. He retired from the Air Force. I'm Army. I just call him my first sergeant because, he was an E8. But he retired, and he worked for the VA. He retired from the VA as well, and now he works for Home Depot, and he's happy. But these veterans coming out, you get these veterans coming out today. They work at who? Home Depot? Oh, I don't think so. Walmart? Well, I don't think so. So what are you going to do to prepare to get that job that you want? Did you go to school? A lot of them do take college courses. Okay, but did you walk off that base with your degree? Did you do that part? Okay, now you know that you want to be in conversation, say communications. Okay, so now you got your degree in communications. For your 10 years you were in, have you reached out to anybody for a job? Have you reached out to media companies or print? Print is still around. Have you reached out to the newspapers, news outlets? This? What did you do? Oh, I didn't know. And that's a fault of the military as well, because your counselors aren't prepping us for when we walk off that base, or it's everyone's hands in the cookie jar. It isn't just the veterans. The veterans are 50% of it, and we can't sugarcoat it. I'm sure your listeners would agree. You can't sugarcoat it. The veterans, it is our responsibility. So we have 50% of responsibility, but the rest of it, they can help prepare us to get there. The military can help us with our processing. They can start and they can hit us up, when we're within 12 months of discharge. Hey, are you realistic? No? Okay, let's start working on your next career. What's your goals? What's your dreams? Did you finish up your degree? Okay, you're married with a family. Have you thought about where you're going to stay? And that's another, I don't have the statistics in front of me, but I have noticed there's been an increase of homeless veterans with families. So now you got a veteran who's homeless, and he's got his wife and his 2 or 3 children staying with her sister or their parents or whatever the case may be. How does that happen? Because they, one, they didn't plan, and then 2, the military didn't help them to plan. Then when they got out, they thought, hey, it's going to be easy, or they get out with a severance or their retirement, and then they realized, well, shoot, on the base, I was staying for free. Yeah, now you got to pay rent. Now you got to pay rent on the mortgage. Now you got to do this. Now you got to do that. Okay, yeah, you ain't got commissary right now because you're not service connected with the VA. So guess what? You got to start going to ShopRite and Acme. You got to start doing these other things that they never thought about because nobody prepared them for it, and then it's a shock to their system. Then they get frustrated because they're working. I'm an E6 from the Army, and I'm up here working at Wawa. I should be doing this. But then the question is, well, what did you do? What did you do prior to you getting out? Now you're out. Now what do you do? You going to stand here at the pump as a gas attendant complaining, or you going to go to school? Or are you going to do whatever you have to do to get the job you're looking for to improve your life? Stop with the excuses. So, we veterans, like I said, we have 50% of that. And my fellow veterans that are homeless, it could be mental health, whatever the reason is, they're homeless, and we have a responsibility as a society to get them back on their feet.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. We definitely have that responsibility and everything. I was just wondering, I remember, and of course, as I said, I came up in the in high school in the late 70s and college in the early 80s. And during that time, there was that whole, be all you can be kind of mentality. So it was join the veterans, become in the military because it's going to help you travel the world. You're going to get to see the world and things of that nature. It was almost like an alternative to the college lifestyle. If you couldn't make it to college for whatever reasons, you didn't have the grades, you didn't have whatever, but you didn't necessarily want to go to community college, the military was the third option. It was a way to see the country and possibly also get out there and see the world. Is that still the way that the society is advertising to get into the military? Because like I said, I don't really pay that much attention to TV the way that I probably should, and I definitely don't have any immediate kids. I do have two nephews that are 11 and 12, so I know in a few years the recruiters will start coming to see them, both the college recruiters and I imagine the military recruiters as well. But I'm just saying, what is the pitch that they are getting folks to go into the military? Because like I said, when I was growing up, it was, that whole, maybe you didn't have the grades if you were in high school or maybe you were an athlete and didn't have quite the skills to get the athletic scholarship. So they sold it to you as a way to see the world, and a lot of people bought into that. But I don't know how they are advertising the military now with so much that's going on in the world. Just as a veteran advocate, how are they advertising to get people into the military in your mind, and is it an effective method to do that?
Well, the one thing is, you are correct. I, too, was a victim of the be all you can be and, and the glitz and glamour, the uniform and all that stuff. Nowadays, especially with the Army, is Army Strong. Go Army Strong. So, and they show, of course, they're probably actors, but they show, them, on the ships, the Navy full steam ahead or something like that now. Show them on the ship and how nice it is, just like you said, seeing the country, staying in uniform, looking nice in your dress greens and all that stuff. Just like the Marine Corps, they always show them. They've been showing them a little bit, going through a little bit of training and stuff, but they always show you finally in that uniform and making you feel proud, desiring to put on that uniform. It's just changing the trends with the with society. It's a marketing strategy because I'm sure you'll probably start taking notice with the commercials. They're putting more into the cyber side of the house, fighting cyber terrorism. With the drones, with them flying the drones and everything, and fight computer viruses and stuff working behind the computer. So now you still see some of the snippets, with them going through training and everything, but you see a lot more of the snippets with them sitting behind a desk and this, and this. So at the same time, they are showing the military as going to a cyber military, and you quote unquote, you may not see the front line, but you can tell a man coming in military as an infantryman that because he knows he's going to be on the front line. I think they always and it's simple marketing. They always want to show the glitz and glamour, but they don't want to show you the reality of when you get through. How to get to the glitz and glamour. Yeah, you're gonna see the world. I saw the world. It's a small place and it's a beautiful place, but it's like, what did I have to give up to see the world? I gave up the potential of, getting a scholarship at UConn and going to college and playing football and this, and this to go into the military. Best experience of my life. Taught me to grow up. It taught me to be self-dependent. But look at all I gave up, and that's the one thing the military doesn't tell these new recruits. Look at what you're giving up. I mean, to me, going to a kid who's graduating on a Friday party with his friends on Saturday and reporting to boot camp on Monday, that's a disgrace because he just lost some of the best times right there, graduating high school and celebrating it. But, the recruiter sold it on him and this business. Mom and dad signed off because chances are they were probably 17 years old. Mom and dad signed off, but damn, did they go off to boot camp? So, I mean, it's marketing. I see what they're doing. They're showing the glitz and glamour of it, cyber technology, drones, and all this stuff, computer fighting, war games, and all that stuff. Well, I hate to tell them, but a drone isn't fighting the war. A drone is not going to fight the war. Sitting there behind a computer screen, putting out, getting the targets and everything and dropping bombs on the targets, yeah, that's beautiful. But guess what? You need foot soldiers going in and clean up. And that's where the trauma starts. That's where the trauma starts because don't nobody want to walk up on a site and you see, bodies and the casualties of that bomb being dropped. That's the stuff that they're not telling people. They're also not telling them when you get out, you probably will have mental health conditions because the stuff you see stay with you for the rest of your life. So I mean, like I said, it's marketing strategy. I can understand, but I wish they would just be more upfront and real with it that basic training is not for everybody. Basic training is probably worse than any football camp you ever go through or any sporting camp that you will go through in your life. It is 8 weeks of hell. Excuse my French, but that's what it is. Okay? And if you can make it through basic training, then the military is for you. And I wish, they would stop, with the uniforms and this. Yeah, the uniform looks great, but guess what? When I'm 30 years old, I ain't wearing that uniform no more. I'm not even going to fit it. I donated it fine to the Goodwill. I can't even fit it. I just get my medal. So why do I need the uniform for? So it's like, okay, yeah, I wore the uniform. Even if you wore it for 25 years and you retired, guess what? You ain't still, and I mean, and as you retired like General Maddox and you still wearing your uniform, chances are you ain't wearing no. Colin Powell ain't wearing his uniform no more. So it's like, when the uniform is off, that's okay. These are memories now. But what did he have to get? What did he have to give up? And what did he go through to get all that rank and all the medals and to get that uniform? There's always a story behind that, and that's what needs to be told.
Yeah, because the other thing I wonder sometimes is if we don't get too caught up with the whole militarization of like our video games and stuff like that. Like I said, my younger brother, and I only have one brother, but my brother is totally into video games. And I know a lot of times, like I said, he went to college, he did the long college plan and everything. He did not do the military. I have cousins that did the military. But that being said, sometimes when I watch those video games, I'm going like, good grief. I mean, they're definitely putting this glamorization of what you're doing. But of course, you can kill that person in the game and that person's going to walk back up in the next game. In real life, that ain't going to happen.
Well, see, and I'm glad you said that because me and Dean had this conversation quite a long time ago. America has taught us to be violent. Our society has taught us to be violent. Remember the little green army soldiers? Remember cowboys and Indians? Remember buying kids them little cap guns and stuff like that and all that nonsense? And they're geared to what? The men. Mm-hmm. They're geared to what? The men. So society has always taught us to be violent. So it's like now, since the FCC or whomever controls these video games, they have relaxed their standards. Just like you said, now you're seeing the blood and all that stuff on the screen. And like you said, you just hit reset or start the game over, and they're right back. Well, that's not life, buddy, because when you're dead, you dead. You ain't coming back. That's the end game. But the thing is, society has taught us to be. What was the first murder ever committed in human history? When Cain killed Abel.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's like, wow. So we have been violent since the dawn of creation, and they inbred it in us. You and I growing up, and Dean growing up back in the 70s and 80s, Cowboys and Indians, we didn't think nothing about it. You either wanted to be the Indians, wanted to be the Cowboys, cops and robbers.
Right.
You wanted to be the cops, you wanted to be the robber. This and this. Now it's like you said, now they don't play those games because guess what? All they got to do is plug it in, turn on the power button, it's right in front of them. And they can talk to their friends over there in Spain, down there in Brazil, and they're playing worldwide, with their friends, and they're playing the game, killing and glamorizing it and cheering and all that stuff. It's always been embedded in us. So, I mean, people have to realize, and they need to open their eyes, we created this monster. Now the monster is out. Now they're like, okay, how do we control it now? It done got out of control.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, it's like we controlled that monster, and also a lot of times we also have people that try to glamorize what's going on, but they themselves weren't involved. Like, you know, you mentioned 45 earlier, and last time I checked, he's always glamorizing the military, but I don't think he served, or not that I served, so I can't talk because I didn't serve either. But I know I also don't claim that I served. So, but he claimed that he glamorizes the whole thing, and I think he actually avoided military, if I remember correctly.
Who and who was that you were talking about?
Mr.
45,
Bones,
the current person.
I mean, let's keep this conversation lighthearted, because I mean, I know our listeners, we don't need to do anything because his mouth tells us all we need to know. So whatever, you know. Yeah. Next subject. Nah, I'm not even going down that road with him. No. Is it November yet? Shouldn't I be turning my heat on?
It needs to be. It definitely needs to be. Now, speaking of November, I understand because of our first conversation when Dean put us in touch, you said that you were thinking about running for political office. What political office are you thinking about running for? And will it be this time or will it be 2 years from now? And why do you think that you want to be a politician?
Well, the main thing is, I'm glad you asked that question, because as I said earlier, I'm the congressional liaison here for the regional office here in Philly, here in the tri-state area, here in South Jersey. And I deal with the politicians every day with their staffers, and we have, you know, in-depth conversations and everything. And it definitely won't be this year because of the pandemic. I was getting ready to run, and then, you know, how you get that small, still voice that says, don't rush it, don't rush it. Well, I'm glad I didn't, because now it's a pandemic, and how can I get my name out there? I mean, virtual is good, but people want to actually get out and meet who you are. And I was like, okay, nope, this isn't the year. So I didn't throw my hat out there. But definitely, I do believe, after a lot of prayer, that it is time for me to run for public office, because the people's voice isn't being heard. Our politicians are in office. A lot of them are in office for their own self-need. You know, for their own self-interest. You know, we all know who they are. We don't need to say Mitch McConnell. Oh, I'm sorry. But there's a lot of politicians that are in for their own self-interest. They don't care about the people, because if they cared about the people, we wouldn't have to wait for something drastic to happen for a law to be passed. You know, and you know, they like down in Tennessee with the Breonna Taylor case. You know, now they finally passed. You have to knock before entering. It's like that's 101 in the police academy. That's common sense. You never enter because you don't know what's behind the door. So shouldn't you knock anyway? That's what they're taught before you go into any residence. You always knock first, because you don't know what that person he has in there. So why would they just knock? I don't care if the guy was Scarface. I don't care if he was Scarface. You don't know what he got there behind that door. It's your safety. So why did something drastic have to happen for them to do that? The people's voice is not being heard, and it's a shame. I mean, now we're going to keep this lighthearted. So with that being said, yes, I will be running for assemblyman here in South Jersey next year. After this year's election is over with, and next year around January, I'll get the petition, get it out. Definitely get my signatures and put my name in a hat. I will be running Democrat, and the people's voice need to be heard. I mean, we don't have a lot of problems here in Camden County, but we do have the problems here because of our teachers. And the main problem here in Camden County is the teachers, and with their health benefits and with their vacation days, and of course we know pay. The teachers have the most important job in the world, and they get paid the least amount of money. There's something wrong with that picture. And then you got the roads that are torn up, and most importantly, it's my fellow veterans, because somebody needs to stand up here and tell them, hey, look, $250 on a property tax relief for a veteran is a slap in the face. When you got, we got all these millions. Got one of the I just read this the other day. Per capita, we are number, I believe it's 4 or 5 in the country of rich people in this small state here. And yet and still, you're giving veterans a $250 property tax relief. And then at the same time, like I stated earlier, I can be a voice for my fellow veterans as well, because you can get the state to get involved with mental health. The president probably the only thing he ever did good was sign the executive order on mental health. So why isn't our boy here up there in Trenton doing anything about that? Yeah, we got the we got the billboards up and everything, but I don't see your face on the commercial. I don't see my assemblywoman's face on the commercial. I don't see anyone out there. You are a state elected official, so you're not paying for the airtime. The state is paying for it. It takes a little heart and some common sense to stand in front of the camera and to tell the people you are here for them. And mental health is a increasing problem, and I'm here to help you, and this is where you need to go. But you only see them when it's election time. And I promise, that I'm not going to be that. I'm going to be out there all the time, because people need to know who your politicians are, and they need to know you are out there for them. They need to see you out there, not just building a park, in Camden, or building a park in South Philly or something. No, they need to see you doing more than that. They don't need you only at Thanksgiving giving out dinners. They don't need you only on Veterans Day going down to Walter Reed Hospital. They need you to do more than that. And I think people are fed up in it, and they're tired. I mean, look at our upcoming election. We literally have to pick the lesser of the two evils. One's not saying nothing, which is actually kind of smart, but it might backfire on him. And the other one just won't keep his mouth shut. And he's riling people up. So it's like, wow, what do we do? What do we do?
Yeah, you got a good point. That's a good description of both of those candidates, and you're right. The local elections are very important, because I know even here in the Durham area where I'm at, a lot of times the candidates will do a lot of good jobs of campaigning, but then when it's time for them to show up during the course of the regular year, folks sometimes get frustrated because they don't see them out as much as they see them doing the campaign trail. So that's a problem that I know a lot of folks have throughout the country. Or either that, or they'll say one thing and then do something else once they get in office. So I've also had people that have complained about that, where they've heard somebody promise something, and then when they've actually been called on it, they're not doing what they said they were going to do. So it sounds like you're going to be one to not just make the promises and the pledges, but you're actually going to try to back those pledges up. So if somebody's listening and they're not in your district, like I said, we have listeners, of course, like Dean, who's up there in Jersey, and we have quite a few listeners in Jersey and New York area, but we also have some in North Carolina and throughout the country and throughout the world. So if somebody's listening that's not in your district, what can they do to help your campaign that's going to happen in another year or so? What can somebody here in North Carolina do, or say in California, or even in, we sometimes have listeners that are listening from places as far away as maybe some places that you served at, like Dubai and the Middle East and places like that. So if somebody's listening and they're not in your district, what can they do to help your campaign? What can they do to help the veterans that you're helping? Because a lot of times these veteran issues are across the area. They're not just in your area, but they're throughout the country. So just share with us some ways that people can help if they're listening right now, or if they're listening on one of our rebroadcasts, that they can help your campaign as well as just help the veterans in general.
Okay, definitely. But I want to ask you a question. If you had a problem down in North Carolina in Durham, and you want to reach out to your politician, and most of us know who our congressmen are and our senators are. Do you know who your assembly person would be, or your council person would be, to address your problems down there?
Yeah, we have. I know our city council people. We've actually had a few of them actually on this show here. So yeah, I know Jillian Johnson. I know Deidreana Freeman, Mark Middleton, and a couple of others. So I would actually say that I probably know the majority of them. But I do know that a lot of my listeners cannot say that. I just happen to be very engaged in activism and politics and things of that nature. So I do know that in general, that answer would be no. But like I said, I'm the exception to the rule and not the norm, because I actually know my mayor and know some of the other people, know most of my county commissioners. I know Wendy Jacobs is one, Brenda Howard, and I don't know that I can name all of them. But I could probably name the majority of the city council, and probably if I thought long and hard enough about it, I could probably say the majority of the county commissioners. But you are right. A lot of the general population does not know that.
And that's a shame because you elected them. You know, you and I know, and Dean knows, and probably a good portion of your listening audience probably do or may know one of them outside of, like I said, the U.S. congressmen or women and the U.S. senators. But it's like it's a shame because you only see them, you only see your assembly person or your city council when there's something controversial, when there's something that comes out of nowhere, or is a controversial bill. Like here in Philly, a lot of these city councilmen and women started coming out because it was a couple of years ago about the soda tax. But now you ain't heard a peep from them since. Now 2 of them call in the sports radio station that I live up here, that listen to up here. But it's like outside of that, how come we don't hear from you? It takes a little. People have put you in office. You don't want them to forget about you, and you also want them to know that you haven't forgot about them. And that's, to me, I think it's a major problem with politics. Our politicians get in office, and they're out there on the trail shaking hands, kissing babies and everything, and saying I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, blah 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 blah. Then they get in office, and we all know the story. Okay, nothing, peace, quiet is heard. Now, one thing that they do wrong is definitely make promises and not realizing that, I'm the junior person on here. I might not be able to have that much pull yet. But if you get a couple of the veteran politicians or assembly people on your side, then you have some clout. Then you have some clout right there, and you can start building up. So you have to build your reputation. It's like coming into a fraternity. You're a neo until you earn your bones. Same thing in politics. You're a neo, but at the same time, you went out there and made the people these promises. They haven't heard from you since you made those promises. Hello, is there a problem there? Yes, there's a drastic problem. And what people can do to help me in my campaign is put the word out and tell your politicians, we need to hear from you. We don't need no letters. We don't need to see you out there working at no playground park. We don't need to see you out there just going out for Thanksgiving and Christmas time. No, they need to see you. They need to see. I mean, how hard is it? I mean, let's just break this down for a second. We also know about security and everything. I mean, we know that. But how hard is it for a councilman to go to a McDonald's or a ShopRite or just the average day place and just say hello and meet people? And it's not an election. This is just a normal day. How hard is it to do that? Now, we know you're going to have security, and that's fine. But how hard is it just to get out and meet the people? They voted for you. Some of them just voted because you were a name on a ticket, and they didn't know who who the other guy was, and you were new, and you were a fresh face. So they said, you know what, I'm going to vote for Sheldon. I don't know about this Kirkpatrick dude, so I think you need to go. We just go, but you don't know me. So now you just voted for my name, and then now I'm out there in the public, and you don't know who I am, and that's wrong. The main thing, and this isn't really for my campaign, but it's more so for this upcoming election. We have to demand more from our politicians. We need to demand more. We need to see you. You don't make a promise you're not going to raise taxes before you get in office because you don't know what the situation is going to be. Don't make promises that probably you won't be able to keep. Be honest and real with the people. Come from the heart. If you know police brutality is wrong, then you need to stand on it and tell the people what you propose. And that's the key phrase right there, propose to do. So that people can be like, okay, this sounds like somebody that's going to come up there and fight. We know police brutality has been a problem. It's been a problem since the dawn of creation. Okay, this isn't something new. This is something that started overnight. But we need someone who's going to stand up and say, enough is enough. Let's not have another, Eric Gardner or Floyd or George Floyd or any of those situations, Trayvon Martin. Enough is enough. Stand up. Tell the people what you propose and go and fight for them. That's what the people want. People want a politician that's going to stand up and fight the powers to be, and that's the type of politicians we need. Who are going to be, like The Rock said, I'm a wrestling fan, so The Rock always said, I'm the people's champ. That's what the people need. They need a champ. They need a champ that's going to go out there, keep his or her word, and fight for them. Go up there. Enough with raising taxes here in Camden County. Enough of these teachers being underpaid and getting ready to lose their medical. Enough of all that stuff. They're cutting back on that, this. But yet still they perform the most important job in the world. Because if they don't teach us, who else is going to teach us? Who else is
that's a good.
Mom and Dad, we can only do but so much. My daughter and son, don't come ask me about no calculus and algebra. Shoot, don't get me to lie. You better Google it. Shoot, so who's going to teach them? If it's not for them. So what the people can do for me, is I'm definitely if they have friends up here in the tri-state area, especially here in South Jersey, in Camden County, is to just spread the word that, this guy, Sheldon Stewart, he works for the VA, and he has a nonprofit in South Jersey to help fellow veterans, that he sounds like that he's somebody for the people. And I am, because I'm tired, because our voice is not being heard. And at the same time, what they can do is spread the word down there where they live and say, hey, look, demand more from your politicians. Demand more than just smoke and mirrors. Don't come to us with broken promises. Tell us the truth. Don't say you're not going to raise taxes and 6 months in you're going to raise the taxes. Don't say you're going to cut down on police brutality and then you just had 2 incidents and you ain't said nothing. We don't need no more of that. We need someone who's not afraid, who's going to stand up and say enough is enough. Enough with the good old boy system. Enough with the Aunt Jemima stuff that's going on and all that stuff. We need people to stand up and say enough. The history is already black. Okay, it's already blackened. So I always tell people, instead of you reading history, why don't you start making history? And that's what I'm here to do, to make history in office. Your listeners, like I said, in the tri-state area, if you can start spreading the word, just be on the lookout. Like I said, on Facebook, I'm Sheldon R. Stewart. You can definitely look up the Veterans Reset Center. We're on Facebook and also on LinkedIn. My website is www.tvrc.us. That's Tango Victor Romeo Charlie Uncle and Sierra.us. You can look us up there. My cell phone information is on there. I just ask if you reach out to me, please send me a text message, because with these scam calls and everything, if I don't recognize your number, I'm just going to be honest, I'm not going to answer. But if you send me a text message, I'll definitely get back to you. But I mean, we just need people. We just need politicians to stop worrying about their own self-interest. Martin Luther King said something, and a lot of people started quoting him, and he's actually right, because I listen to a lot of his speeches when I work out here. I have my gym in my house now because Corona, and I listen to a lot of his speeches and Malcolm X speeches. And Martin Luther King said that that we may have to pay not for just the appalling actions of the bad people, but also the appalling silence of the good people. And here is a situation right now where good people need to speak up. I mean, last I heard, a closed mouth never got fed. So people need to speak up. They need to demand more from their politicians, whoever it may be. And the politicians need to wake up and be out there in the community so people know who you are, so they know that you voted for them and that you're continuing the fight, because the fight's going to go on long after our time has passed. The fight's always going to be here, but you need someone who's brave enough to stand up and say enough's enough, enough's enough, and quite frankly, I'm tired. Enough's enough. Enough of this nonsense. Yeah. If you can't treat people with respect, see you later. Don't bother. Stay home. stay home.
Yep.
We good. We ain't going to miss you. Stay home.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. Makes a whole lot of sense. Now, I'm just curious. We got to wrap up. We've got about another 10 to 12 minutes to go. But I know here in this area, one of the issues that has been dealt with has been, and I was wondering if you're going to touch on this in your campaign, has been gentrification. Now, of course, some of this construction has gotten put on hold because of the coronavirus, but we were definitely seeing a lot of people that were having their, housing that was being rising cost, and a lot of people that were of different cultures moving in because of the prices. I imagine that was going on in New Jersey as well. So is that something that you're going to touch on during your campaign? Because I know gentrification is definitely an issue that has been hitting throughout the country with a lot of these new houses and new apartments that are being developed, and are not exactly the cheapest in the world. So they're driving out some of our folks, whether they're just regular citizens or veteran citizens or whatever. So just wanted to know some of your thoughts on that, whether that is an issue that you will be touching on during your campaign.
Well, yeah, definitely, and I'm glad you did go there, because that's a problem that was established by the builder. When he or she, the company went and got that contract, they let the county officials know what type of clientele they were attracting. So that goes back to what I was saying earlier, your politicians, your county administrators, your county officers. That's where it all started from. They had to get the approval from them that we are going to build, 150-room apartment building here in Pittman, New Jersey, and we just want the middle class, preferably, we want 30% African American and the rest Caucasian, or whatever the case may be. And that's where it all started from. And your county officials that you elected signed off on it. So that's a major problem right there. And that's been going on, and it's a shame, because it's like you make the money to live where you want to be, and you still can't. Now, how does that math make sense? If I can afford it, and I want to live in like Belmar, New Jersey, which is up there at the shore, one of our shore communities. From white, black, it doesn't matter. If I can afford the $400,000 mortgage, why can't I stay there? Why is a realtor going to try and tell me, no, we don't think this is for you? Why? Because of the price of this, and this, and this is okay. I know all this going on. Why do you want to try and sell me a place over there in Jersey City for? Why? Oh, I see why. Okay, you want a specific type. So this all comes all the way back down from your county officials and your elected officers. Before that construction company and that property company got that contract, the county officials signed off on that, and that's where it needs to start. The county officials need to look. I don't care where you live. Can you afford it? Can you pay the taxes? Can you pay the mortgage? Okay, come on in. Period. End of story. No. And that's ridiculous. But we all knew where this came from. What this came from in the 30s, 40s, 50s. That's why we have Harlem, because that's where they put us. And it made it so dirt cheap. That's why we have Camden, New Jersey. We have Jersey City. We have all these places now that they deliberately put us there so they can control us. Why? Why are we such a threat? What did I do? I breathe the same air. I got the same blood. Some of you, we wore the same uniform. What's the problem? Oh, I got it. Because I have a permanent tan 365 days a year, and you don't. Okay. And you feel intimidated about it. Okay, no problem. All right, now we got you. But that all goes all the way back to what? Your elected public officials. And that's when I was saying earlier, they need to take their own self-interest out of it, because they signed off on it, because what you and I know is probably something on the back end for them. And the mayor had to sign off on that too, right? So before you can do any construction, I mean, you got a whole lot of stuff you got to go through. You got to go through zoning, definitely unions to build and all. You got so much you got to go through. So everybody signed off on it so they can track a certain they're setting off fireworks here, so not shooting.
No problem.
But so they just everyone had to sign off. Everyone had to sign off from the president of the company that made the proposal all the way down to the local union stewards that signed off to build it. They all knew what they were doing, and that all goes back to your elected officials.
Yep. Absolutely. You have to get those elected officials, and they have to be doing what they said they're going to do. Now, the other thing, and this is the last thing I want to bring up and everything, that I know happens here, and I don't know if it happens in New Jersey as much or even the Tri-County area and everything, is that we have a lot of people that get caught up in the PACs, which is like these committees, and here we have the Durham Affairs, the Committee of Black People. We also have the People's Alliance, but they're like the endorsement groups that are very much the kind of controlling factors. There are some new ones that have started up. So do you have that as much there in the New Jersey area, and how will you deal with those if they exist? Because I know here they kind of control who gets elected because, unfortunately, we have a lot of folks, and I agree with both you and Dean that you need to research, but we have some people around here that they get the sheet of the endorsements, and I know that there y'all have organizations like the NAACP and the Urban League, and they get the endorsement, and they pretty much vote whatever those people tell them to vote without really doing the research themselves. So that's one of the things that I have a problem with is that, don't just get this statement and just vote because somebody told you to vote that person, but I think you need to do the research yourself. So I was wondering, is that an issue there in New Jersey? Do you have those kind of groups, we hear they're called PACs, but those PACs are those kind of like interest groups that send out their endorsements and people vote solely those endorsements?
Political action committees, wherever there's politics, there will always be PACs. And the only thing that you can do is, as a politician, is just be smart about it. Wherever there's money involved, there's going to be PACs. Wherever there's politics involved, there's going to be PACs, because everyone has their own self-interest. And that's why we're in the state we're in now, because everyone has their own self-interest. And as a politician, you have to, no matter what the cost, even though sometimes it may be a steep cost, you have to stand on your morals. You have to stand on your morals. When those PACs come and they want to endorse you if you do such and such and such for them, you got to look at yourself. You got to sit back and be like, well, man, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with blah, 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 blah. So why are you going to go with that PAC? Why are you even going to do that? It's a shame. It isn't right. But that's the system that they put in place. This is the system they put in place. You can't even, and it's a shame to say this, but it's true. You really can't even run without affiliating with one of them. Just like you said, NAACP, the Urban League, the veterans organizations up here, stuff like that. And I'm sure there's a gazillion other ones up in this area. Once my name gets out there, I'll get, phone calls and correspondence and stuff and this and this. That's when, like you said, you got to do your research on them. You got to do your research on them, and you always got to remember what's in the best interest of the people. A lot of these politicians, they join these PACs because of what? Their own self-interest. Okay, if I do this and this to them, they're going to give me such and such a back, and okay, I'm good. Just recently, remember you had the situation with not only the actors, but a couple of politicians got involved with the school and stuff, with their kids going to school, and they either didn't take the test or didn't even do the classes or anything like that, and they got caught up in that. They didn't take the entrance exams and all that stuff, but they got in because guess what? That school had their little system, and they said, okay, if you do this and this for us, we'll get little Johnny and Mary in school. And then there was a big scandal on that because it's like, wait a minute, how did they get in school? And then you find out, oh, okay, they were a member of such and such, that little PAC over there, so they went ahead and they ran to them, and they did them a favor, so they went ahead and let little Johnny and Billy in school. And then what does that do? Little Johnny and Billy, graduate from college, and it's got Harvard on there instead of Rowan University. Really? Are you serious? And they didn't even earn it. So, I mean, you just have to be smart. Unfortunately, they have, politicians, even presidents and courts have tried for centuries to try and get rid of them. The sad part is you can't. They are here. You just have to be smart and do your research. Before you sign on that dotted line, do your research. Is this what's in the best interest for the community? Is this what's in the best interest for the people? The people put their trust in me, just like me working for the federal government. They put their trust in me to allow me to work for the federal government. I can't let them down. They trusted me to do my job and do it with excellence. It's the same thing in politics. They're trusting you to be an ethical, upright man, a man of moral character that's going to do the best by them. So when those packs come and you know you're not going to be a part of the NRA, so why are you going to partner up with the Hunters Association of Camden County, New Jersey? You don't even like guns. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, do your research, find out who they are, and especially, as we know, right wing, left wing, or independent. You have to find out what side they're on. A lot of them sign up with these packs, and then they come to find out, I didn't know you didn't believe in abortion. I didn't know you didn't, that you're an atheist. Too late now. You didn't know time to deal with the government. You know what I'm saying? So
that's real too.
Yeah, it's out there. They just have to do the research and just be smart, because the people are trusting you to do what's best by them. And if the people can't trust you, who else can?
That's very true. Well, that's wrapping up the show. I definitely appreciate you joining us on here, Sheldon. You definitely gave a lot of great insight, and I appreciate it. Sorry for the mix-up. I should have gotten in touch with you earlier, and I thought that I had already arranged everything, but that was my bag. But I still think you gave a lot of great insight, and I greatly appreciate it. Usually as we close out the show, we always have people that the guests, and sometimes we have multiple guests, but you were an amazing guest, and you just held the floor just by yourself, and that was a great thing. Me and Dean were chit-chatting before, so we definitely appreciate you being on. But as we wind down, we always ask our guests or guests what advice or word of encouragement that they would give to people just in general. So you've shared a lot of general knowledge about politics and just general things in general, but me and Dean usually calls out with something as well. But what words of encouragement or word of advice or just something that you would give as a quick word of encouragement just to our general audience from throughout the world? So anything that you want to share with them, we would love to hear from you in that regards.
Well, I would just like to say what I said earlier. What I tell people: stop reading history and start making history. Make your own history. Your story hasn't been told, and it's up to you how you want your story to be told. Just stop reading history, learn from history, and you make history. And that's what I mean. Whether it's finding a cure for the common cold, or whether it's as simple as being a school bus driver and, taking care of the kids and make sure they're safe. Start making history, because if we don't start making history, I hate to say this, we're going to become history.
Very powerful words. I appreciate those very powerful words. Dean, what you got to say? This is your friend Sheldon. He definitely brought some fire with him. So what do you got to say as we wrap up? And I know we got a few other things that we want to let folks know about. And you always have your sayings of what you say at the end. And I've got a couple of things I'm going to let them know about next week's show. There's some words of wisdom that I've got as well. But what do you want to share with the world also, Dean?
It's an outstanding interview today. We would like to thank Sheldon. Is not only my friend, but he is also my brother, and he did an outstanding job on this show tonight. Make sure y'all check out and support the Veterans Reset Center. They provide housing, counseling, job placement, and individual development. Again, that website is www.tvrc.us. Make sure, and if you can do so, make a donation. Help support that cause. Like he said, it's never too late for a new beginning. That's the Veterans Reset Center. Remember to catch us on Monday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here at blogtalkradio.com. We're live. Don't forget to catch us tomorrow afternoon at 2 p.m. on the Skyhawk Radio Network. And if you missed those, we have replays on Radio Public, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, TuneIn, Stitcher, Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, Podcast Addict, Castbox, and right here at Blog Talk Radio. Like I always say, when you walk outside your front door, it's showtime in the world is your stage. Just make sure that people are not watching the rehearsal. With that being said, it's the six-man Dean Geronimo. Have an outstanding week. We see y'all in 7 days.
And Dean, just really quickly, as I'm going to tell people about what we've got going on next week, you said that you put up those new shows on what day? What day did you have those running? So I'm going to tell people about those.
It's the Mark Lee Show, y'all. It comes on Saturday at 1 p.m. right here at blogtalkradio.com. We also have other shows, the Chef Gang Podcast, the Black Girl's Guide to Surviving Menopause, and quite a few others. Let's K-12 Better, Mona Shake, The Minority Reports. I'm forgetting somebody, and I don't want to leave them out, but just keep it locked right here to Straight Talk with Dean and Mark, the Level Podcast Network. We keep going, we keep moving, we keep grooving, because that's what we do. And we do have a couple of other shows. She's on Call, Funk from the Front Seat, the Just Podcast, and then the Let's Talk About It radio show. And that's every one of them.
Yep, and we might be adding some more. I'm talking to a photographer friend to see if he wants to join our family and a couple of others. But you know we do have those interviews coming up. So go on to our website and you'll see that we have this week some upcoming episodes. One that deals with career coaching from a young lady from the New York area. That's right. She moved from New York to Australia, and she is doing career coaching all the way from Australia. So we had that conversation, and that is airing. And then earlier today, we had a show that dealt with healthy living with my good friend Hadasaya Patterson, who is a chef, and Belinda, who is a yoga expert. So we had demonstrations of both healthy living and yoga, and you got to see, if you saw the video or the streaming, the actual performance of all of this, but you get to hear about it on the show and everything. So definitely keep that in mind. That is going on, and so you can catch those. And then next week, we've got some great musicians and artists that will be on the show. We've got Lisa Snyderman, who goes by the name of Aote, and Tony O, and they are two performers on the show. And we will also be joined by Delinda Watson, whose career is dedicated to parenting and marriage counseling, and there might be some others that will be joining us as well. And, you know, my good friend, because I've become a friend of mine now, but my good friend Sheldon was talking about being sure to be in the place. Well, we've got an event that's going on this coming weekend. This Friday, I mentioned some other events that are going on. Well, this Friday, the group of folks that I'm involved with the Fayetteville Street area here in Durham, they are going to be providing some food to some people at a couple of feeding sites, but also giving them information about voting and the Census Bureau and things of that nature. So if my politician friends are listening, take the advice of Sheldon and show up. You know, this might be a chance for you to meet some of your constituents. So since Sheldon said that you don't need to just show up during election time, and some of you are not running, I'm saying that you need to show up at this event on Friday. One of them will be 12 to 1, and the other, I think, is from 3 to 4. The 12 to 1 one will be taking place at the Chicken Hut, and the 3 to 4 one will be at New Visions of Africa. So, like I said, come on over by, check it out, get this very important information about what's going on with the census as well as voting. And, of course, you know, there'll be some food at these sites as well. And, of course, we also want to get information about things that are of concern to you. So this is a group that I've been part of, a fellowship that I've been part of, and we're looking to get some information from the community. But I have no problem with the politicians popping up and talking as well. So you've heard Sheldon say, you know, don't just show up during election time. So I'm telling you right now, show up during this event. I'm telling them right now, and they can hear this replay. So I expect to see at least a couple of them at the event, since Sheldon has called them out and said that they need to show up, not just during election time.
And also remember what he said. Stop reading about history and start making it. So we'll see y'all next week, man.
Sounds good. We'll talk to you later. We're going to continue trying to make as much history as we can. I think we're making some good history right here on the Next Level Network. What do you think, Dean?
We definitely are, man. And we keep going, keep checking in. We keep making it.
Yeah, we keep going in, and just I'm going to let you know and let our listeners know. You know, you put up there that we had crossed the 10,000 mark. Well, guess what? We're at 10,121. So who knows? Maybe by this time next week or the week after, maybe we would have crossed the 11,000 mark or something like that, because we're already at 10,121. So we're still getting people to continue to download these things and listen on a regular basis, and we're just going to keep these numbers climbing on up.
And that's for sure. So Hey, y'all, before we get cut all the way off right here, we got to take a pause for the cause. We going to see y'all, man. Keep it locked. There's a whole bunch of shows, a whole bunch of good information. So until next week, we see y'all.
Peace.